Hey, Randy.
So, what has been going on this week?
So, a couple things for the two companies I'm working for with Aspire EDU. We're working through that scenario where you initially build a product and you're putting all the different pieces together, all the different APIs, and you're building your own system. And you build it one way, and as you gain knowledge of the platforms and as you gain insight into all the little stuff that can happen, you think of a much better way to do it, but you've already written the system. So right now we're in that big refactoring phase where we're refactoring a lot of the stuff we're doing. That's going to free us up to eventually get to a whole platform, back-end platform shift as well, where we can start to spread out the load even more than we currently do. So that's with Aspire EDU. On the construction specialty side, we actually just received some great news this week. So it's actually great news on both companies. The University of Florida Alumni Association puts together a list of the 100 fastest growing companies led by University of Florida graduates.
Nice.
And both Aspire EDU and Construction Specialties is on that top 100 list. So we're absolutely jazzed over here at the moment. It's really, really exciting. So
Congrats. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. We're really happy. So Construction Specialties, of course, being the business that my father started many years ago, and it's just so great that he's gonna get to receive this award for that company after working for so many decades hard at his business. So real excited about that. So what's been going on in your neighborhood?
So, I've got two clients. We're at the end of the year. Both of them are, I guess, they're happy so far with the technology they have, but they're starting to make some really big changes on the business side, and it's requiring changes on tech. One of the firms is moving from a kind of local delivery system of their product, and they're moving it they're aiming for a nationwide type of launch. And so we're going through a lot of design decisions right now to make sure that this nationwide program is affordable and that it works. And so they're kind of going through the debate of doing a new system without investing everything at the beginning and learning how it works, kind of an MVP of this new feature. And then the other client, they have an existing platform, it makes them money, but they want to change completely their pricing system, and they want to start producing more of their inventory the way they do it. It's like a media scanning, or they take film and they digitize it, and they want to ramp that system up. So we're working on different workflows and different pricing mechanisms to really ramp up their revenues. And so we're kind of at the end of the year where we're not going to start a project right now, but we're aiming to do a lot of product management and technology changes starting in January. So to me, it's great because both firms look like they're having some opportunity to grow, and I'm able to do like product development and kind of stuff that I really like. So
Yeah,
it's
cool.
good outlook, I'd say. So
yeah, that sounds really cool.
So I think the topic for this week is something that came up in a question to me last week, at the end of last week, and I wanted to get your thoughts and have a kind of a discussion around a business person comes to you and they say, I have a business idea, and it involves building an app, like a mobile app, on any number of platforms. Who should I hire? Who are the people I need to hire right now? That's as much information as you really are going to get from me on this question. I want to know, and this is not necessarily someone you want a job with. So this is someone you're just giving straight CTO advice to. What the first thing that comes out of your mouth to the question, I want to build an app, and who should I hire right now?
Okay. So I think the first place I'd start with that is I'd want to have some further discussion, and it would be hey, so let's talk about what your app's going to do. Let's talk about how well defined you think you have your idea, because it's highly unlikely that the first thing you want to go do is hire a programmer. In my mind, the first thing you want to make sure you have is someone who can help flesh out at least some idea of what you're looking for in the app. If that person also happens to do some programming, that's great. Especially if they can get you to at least a prototype phase, that's fine. But really, the emphasis in my mind is on making sure you've thought through you've thought through the initial features, you've thought through the initial use cases, and you've thought through the initial data feeds, things like that.
Okay, so I'm a wealthy guy. I mean, I know how to make money, Don. So I know I have a really good feeling that this idea, which I'll explain in a minute, is going to work. This is hypothetical, by the way. I'm not telling you the real idea. But the idea is it's the new Google Reader. Now I do know there's other Google Reader apps that have evolved since they shut that down, but it's Google Reader. And what I'm going to do is go out and hire writers that are doing the best content, and I'm going to make their content exclusive to people that are using my app. And so my idea is to build a feed reader, blog reader application that goes on a mobile device with exclusive content that will draw the eyeballs. And I will get a subscription going so that people are basically paying to read the exclusive content articles on my app. So with that idea, I've thought through all this enough for me to want to plunk down money. Now I need you to tell me who I'm going to hire.
All right, so we won't question the validity of the business idea.
Well, I didn't say you couldn't. I know I make a lot of money, and I feel like I know everything, but you aren't trying to get hired. You're not necessarily trying to get hired,
right?
So I want you to be blunt. I'm not saying you don't repeat what you said before. I'm just asking, what do you say next?
So the business idea itself has to get validated. That's a completely different direction than, no, the business, you're going to pay to try and get this developed anyway, whether the business idea is good or not, because you like burning money.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go with the burning money assumption.
So yeah, okay. So yeah, we're gonna burn money, but what I want you to tell me is, what are my options? What should I be doing when I start out with spending? I'm assuming as a non-technical person, I need technical people. So let's go past the idea of validation. Who am I hiring, or what am I trying to do first after idea validation has I know what I want to aim for?
It can go a number of different directions.
That's what I want to know. I want to know the directions you're talking.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, the types of people that come to mind is some sort of user experience designer. This would be a person that would help to flesh out what the users of your app want, what they're looking for, and how that translates into the app itself. So your initial conversations with a UX or user experience designer would be around the types of people and their motivations and what they're trying to get out of your app. That's one direction you could go. Another direction you can go is you can go to the sheer your user interface designer, to say, okay, what's my app going to look like? I don't know that that's necessarily the right first choice. And sometimes user experience and user interface people, one person does both jobs, but those are two separate fields. I don't know that I'd go to user interface before you try and understand what the users are trying to do. And then depending on the idea, and I guess we'd have to dig in a little bit further onto the idea, is to, if everybody is providing original content, then we're not worried so much about pulling data from a myriad of sources. But if you're talking about a curated feed reader where we're pulling in all these articles and things like that, and we have people on the app end who are taking those articles, writing up summaries and saying this is something you should read, then yeah, you need somebody on the back end to figure out how you're going to pull all that data in. That's right off the top of my head. That's three different places you could go. A product manager, you're way too early for a product manager in my mind. The owner is the product manager.
Okay, well that's a strong piece of advice right there. You're saying to go after the design side and focus on that first. What are the advantages in your mind of hiring that UX person or the interface person? Why? Like, why are you hiring them before you get a product manager, before you hire a technical person? Like, what's the benefit to that?
I'm going with the assumption that for these first initial few iterations, I'm going to use the presumptive you being the owner. Yep. You are going to be the product manager, so to speak. You're going to be the one to make all the decisions on how things go. So that's why I kind of went away from a product manager at first. And the reason I'm leaning towards designer is the developer's side of me is arguing with myself, but you don't build a house without blueprints.
Yeah.
So when you want to build a house, you go to an architect. What is an architect but a user experience designer? They are the people who can go and say, okay, I love your house sounds awesome. Your all glass house.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. It's going to look wonderful. Have you thought about bathrooms? What you talked about your house being all glass, but I'm not really sure you want a see-through bathroom.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, now the architects also have lots of good engineering background, so they're not going to sit here and design a house that can't be built either. So it all comes down to the quality of the person you're hiring. But that's why I went for the design phase first. Is you kind of have to know what you're building before you go build.
So
now,
let me jump in because I really like your example of the house building, and part of it's because I'm looking to buy a house. Megan and I are looking for a place, but we've actually, put our foot in the water on what if we built our own place, or most of the time you're looking for an existing home. So I'm going to jump in with what I initially told this particular potential client versus person I scared off. I'm not sure which way it's gone, but what I talked to them about was the buy versus build in the first place, because they came to me and they talked all day about content. The strongest thing they talked about was, I want a blog reader because I'm going to go off and do hiring of talent, hiring of content production. Content's going to be great. Subscriptions. They talked at a significant amount of time to me about the fact that the content was the king, and they would be putting significant investment in the hiring of the writers, the talent to produce the content. But what they didn't talk about was that they wanted an app that beat the market on features, or that was better than other blog reading apps. So I kind of said, let's talk about this app you want to build, because you don't seem as excited about the app as you do about the content. And they admitted, they were like, yeah, I just need this app to do what I need it to do. I don't really care to try to beat Feedly or old feed reader or whatever they call it. Like, I just want people to be able to subscribe through my app. So then I proposed, there is a significant cost to building your own house, in the sense that you have to pick everything from scratch and know all the issues with the land, with the team that's hired, with the design the blueprint that you just talked about. And you don't really care about the house that much. You just want it to work from day one to do this other thing of bringing in this content and then delivering that. It's a mechanism for that. And given the number of apps on the market, have you proposed, with the money you're talking about spending over a time, like they're talking about a 5-month build or so? I kind of said, I think you may want to consider reaching out to existing app producers or makers that have these type of apps and see if you cannot white label or buy a version of their software just to use for your purpose, and then perhaps get a maintenance agreement with that. Because I see a whole lot of risk in you being a tech firm and a content producer versus a content production company that utilizes an existing platform that you're not even trying to compete on that much. You want the content to be the king. That's how I approached it, and that's why your home building thing is. That's what I'm going through on the personal side of, do we want to go through the 8 or 9 month process to build a house and the risk that comes with that versus buying an existing place? And in theory, you have all the risk laid out in front of you, and and you're paying up front, like some money for that, of course, but you also know the risk involved versus, like, I don't think a custom build is even something that this client wants. I of course, am answering this question having talked to them a lot more than you did, but I think you're bringing up the house building thing spoke a lot to how I talked to them about it.
That's an angle that I hadn't formulated thoughts on. I do think a UX designer might tease that out. And obviously, if I'd had the conversation with the client, it probably would have come up in conversation as well, that they weren't necessarily looking to build something. But you're absolutely right. Buy versus build is one of those initial decisions you have to make.
Now, to the point of the design thing, because I agree with you there 100% that design is where you start. What I've said to clients or anyone I've worked with, even my bosses as a CTO in the past, to have a designer like create and take an idea and put it on a screen is way cheaper for a designer to do than it is for a developer, because a developer does not have typically a good amount of expertise and user experience and conducting the research necessary and even presenting what looks like a good idea on the screen. And so you're going to be paying for significantly higher per hour rates with the developer than you should be paying a designer to get that idea on a screen for you. So I've always kind of, in addition to everything you said about the reason why you want that research conducted by a professional, I also feel like on an hour-to-hour basis, you get a much more efficient product that way, or designed that way, versus having a coder just build it for you on the fly.
Well, sure. There are tools out there like InVision and other products that allow a designer to pretty much build if not a full prototype, at least something you can click through and play with and get a feel for.
Yeah. So let's say client decides they want to do they want to go with your idea of design. Where does someone that doesn't know, and this is going to be a whole episode by itself, but where would someone start to pursue that UX person?
you would start by finding examples of things you like that are out there in the app world. Maybe in your own community, because that makes communication a little easier. But you would start with things that you admire, other apps doing, other websites doing, even I won't go as far as say ad campaigns, but that's the general idea. Is you're looking for things that make sense to your app. That allows you to go contact those people and say, hey, did you use a third party, a freelance UX designer for this? Did you do it in house? And start to feel out where that UX designer network is. You can go so far as to look at local meetups for user experience design. You kind of have to be in one of the bigger cities for those to be well attended and to have a good amount to look at. But those are a couple of places off the top of my head that come out as where can I find a person to talk to about my app and how we can design it.
Cool. Well, I think my next question, which I think we'll save for another time, is about that person, what their talents are, what we're looking for while we're following what you're talking about of the location or the source of them. So, but I think we're going to run out of time for today to cover all that. But I think that, starting with design, I think the whole theme of this discussion is really about making sure you know what you're doing before you invest in a build. And, starting with I just totally agree that starting with at the design level and the design professionals is probably the first step that a non-technical person wants to do. It's certainly what I do when I'm a technical person wanting to start a product. But what were you saying?
I'll take it even one step further. The designers, both user experience and user interface designers, basically what we were saying earlier, they can build you something without there being a lot of back there. So you can sit there and iterate on your idea a number of times before you've invested all this time in the development of it. And this just goes back to your point earlier. I think that's the way you have to start. And we're both, at the end of the day, we both started as back-end developer, strong background people, as opposed to being designers. Neither of us are truly designers.
Yep.
So even coming from our background, we're like, you probably want to know where you're going before you need the map before you go on the trip. If you don't, you'll have an exciting trip, but you may not get where you want to go.
But Don, I have a lot of money. I just want to spend it.
Hey, you want that exciting trip? Get in the car and go. Don't pull up Google Maps or anything. Just go, see where it takes you. So.
All right. So you have a good week. We will talk next week. We'll find something else from the recent experience level to discuss as what does a CTO think about in this scenario? But it's good talking to you. Anything big?
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than the marketing stuff, anything big coming up the next week?
Well, not business wise, nothing real big coming up. We're just like I said, on the Aspire Do side, we're just heads down on the refactor, and that's going to be a bit. That's going to take a while. That's something you bite off in little chunks and still work on your platform and making it better while you're redesigning the back end that nobody ever sees. So that's really where a lot of our effort is going. What do you have planned?
I'm working on a side project. I'll have to talk to you more about it. Yes. It was the big statement.
The side projects are what get us in trouble time-wise.
Totally. But I think this one makes sense. Of course, they all do, right? But I think we'll talk more about it in the future. But this idea fits my experience in business quite well. We'll just have to see if the market wants the idea. That's what I'm still
awesome.
Kind of going
that's
after.
Great.
But we'll talk about it soon. All right, man. Have a good week, and we will talk soon.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yes,
See you.